All right, hi guys. So we are going to be wrapping up the histology for this unit. This is the last lab day of Unit 2. So we're wrapping up histology, going over muscle tissue. Okay, so I am in pale. We are in the histology section under muscle tissue, and I toggled over to slide 4 because I just thought that this was a really clear image of skeletal muscle tissue. Now, of course, we know we're skeletal muscle tissue. It is, connecting the bones. It's holding us together. It allows us to move around and basically live the way we do. So, what's interesting about skeletal muscle tissue is the fact that its cells are striated. Okay, so you have these striated muscle cells. You could draw a line, through straight down, connecting those striations. That's how parallel they are. So you have these really parallel striations, and you also have a bunch of muscle fibers. Okay. These fibers are basically called myofibrils. They just help contract the muscle. Okay, so each of these like little cells could also be called myofibrils or striated skeletal muscle cells. So you also have the fact that it is multinucleated. Okay, all of these little guys right here are the nuclei. All right, and there are multiple nuclei per cell. Skeletal muscle is always going to be multinucleated. Okay. So this is also a really cool picture. This is what a lot of our slides in the class look like. Again, you have these parallel bands with all of these striations. At this point, they're going horizontal where the other one was going vertical, but you can still see the multinucleation of these muscle fibers or myofibrils. Okay? So again, Pale has so many awesome photographs of different preps, different stains, but you just know that all of these are skeletal muscle tissue because of those clear parallel bands, those striations. Look at all of these nuclei. All right, so that's just how obvious it is that it's skeletal muscle. Then we jump over into cardiac muscle tissue. Okay, so cardiac muscle tissue is obviously the muscle that uh, is surrounding the heart. Okay, so it's very important. It needs to be striated as well because the fact that it is constantly contracting. Okay, so those contractions of this striations help the muscle contract so that we can keep pumping blood throughout our entire body. All right. So cardiac muscle tissue is sometimes multinucleated. Okay. Not always. So you can still see the nuclei throughout the muscle tissue. But something else to recognize, if you can't see the actual striations, or rather, if you can see the striations, let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Here they are. There's the striations. They're very clear here. But how do we tell that that's not, skeletal muscle tissue? How do we tell that it is cardiac? Well, we're actually going to look right here. This branching off of the main piece of muscle, right? We have all of these different branching. They keep separating, like they're forking in a road, like a fork in a road, right? They are branching. So that separation, it's not just clear parallel bands. It has these branches along with the striations, okay? So look for the branching of the muscle. You can also look for intercalated discs, okay? So intercalated discs are just found in cardiac muscle tissue. Okay, so this is very unique for cardiac muscle tissue. And it's basically because cardiac muscle tissue has these cell junctions, either gap junctions or tight junctions. Okay, so these intercalated discs are actually uniting the cells because of these cell junctions. But these cell junctions are necessary because it's cardiac muscle tissue and it's constantly contracting and there's a lot going on, okay? So these intercalated discs are seen as really dark lines going throughout. They're not just regular striations. You can see the striations here. They're just, again, the parallel bands. You can kind of see the faint little lines, but then bam, really thick line. Okay, that's your intercalated disc. That is where the cell junctions are. And then again, you continue with the faint striations, still parallel. So you can either look for this intercalated disc, or you can see how here's the muscle, da, 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 and then it branches. Here's the muscle, and then it branches, and it's branching, okay? So all of that. It also can be multinucleated, but not always. All right? Then lastly, we have smooth muscle tissue, okay? So this is looking at the intestines. We're looking at the duodenum. So with smooth muscle, there's two different layers because smooth muscle is typically lining hollow organs, internal organs, okay? It's also found near the eyes and in the skin and different glands, but it's typically lining these hollow organs within the digestive tract, okay? So there's two different layers, and you have the longitudinal and then the circular, okay? And so you can see it's a clear difference between the circular layer and the longitudinal layer of smooth muscle, okay? So typically with the circular layer of the smooth muscle, you have these, and the circular layer is always inner, okay? That's not facing the lumen. So with the circular layer, you're going to have like these really enlarged, these cells, these smooth muscle cells, okay? So that's one way to tell the difference. So here we are again. So this is a cross and a longitudinal section, so that's fine. So this would be the longitudinal section right here. Again, you have these really long nuclei, okay? So one thing to note is that there's no striations. There's just nothing striated about smooth muscle. It's all smooth, right? So that's one way that you can tell smooth muscle apart from the others, all right? Or you can just look at these huge nuclei and look how stretched out they are, right? Again, really stretched out nuclei, and they kind of look like, when you flatten an egg in a pan to fry it up, the egg white flattens out and then that yolk kind of like perches up, right? That's kind of what I see when I see these long, elongated, smooth muscle nuclei. So this, again, is found in hollow organs of the digestive tract. Make sure that you can kind of tell the difference between the longitudinal and the circular layers. Yeah, so basically smooth muscle is just a really, thick band of pink with cells stretched out in between them. There's no branching, there's no striations, there's no intercalated discs. It is just pink with cells. A lot of people do have trouble with smooth muscle. They will consider it to be dense, regular, collagenous connective tissue. The main thing to look for is the really elongated nuclei. Also with dense, regular connective tissue, the cell type was fibroblasts, and fibroblasts are purple, whereas here in the smooth muscle tissue, you can obviously see that the cells are not purple. There's no purple ever. It's just pink and no purple dots. Okay? All right, so this was again on Pale. I also suggest using Histology Guide. They also have some really cool photos, but that's basically everything for the histology portion of the unit.